there's a growing call for the removal of a 20-year sanction against the southern African nation of Zimbabwe, which critics say is harming the nation's economics and its people. Earlier today, the head of the African Union Commission demanded the lifting of all of the sanctions, which were originally imposed due to election rigging and human rights abuses. Zimbabweans, as well as ambassadors from countries in the Southern Africa Development Community, say the sanctions levied in 2002 by some Western nations, including the United States, are impeding Zimbabwe's economic recovery and driving communities into unprecedented hunger. Joining me now to provide further insight is Rutendo Matinyarare, the chairperson of Zimbabwe Anti-Sanctions Movement, also the CEO of Frontline Start Marketing Consultancy. Rutendo, welcome to the show. What are some of the sanctions imposed by Western powers, such as the United States, and how have they directly impacted the Zimbabwe that we see today?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I just wanted to adjust something and say that there is no evidence that the sanctions that have been imposed on Zimbabwe are because of election rigging or any other reason, because they're extrajudicial. There's been no trials, there's been no opportunity for anybody to answer in any court. So it's actually punishment or lynching as far as we're concerned, because of us taking back our land and us going into Congo to defend the Congo from US-sponsored Congolese and Rwandan rebels that were sponsored Rwandan rebels and Ugandans. But anyway, let me answer the question as to what are the type of sanctions that are on Zimbabwe. We've got congressional sanctions that are called ZIDERA. ZIDERA stops Zimbabwe from getting loans from multilateral lending institutions, specifically development and reconstruction loans after 90 years of colonialism, and also development and reconstruction loans after 17 years of a war for liberation in which we fought against the Rhodesian government that was backed by the United States, ironically. The United States recruited 15,000 mercenaries from ex-Vietnamese SEALs, commandos, and others, together with the British, Australians, Israelis, Eastern Europeans, and a number of other European countries that sent their people that were financed by the US government to fight against our liberation. And so there was an agreement that we would be given reconstruction loans. And more importantly, it also stops us from getting cancellation of colonial debt. So as you would understand, as a colony, there were a number of provisions for the colonizer to develop the colonized peoples by giving them basic human rights. Zimbabweans were not awarded those basic human rights by the British that were colonizing Zimbabwe. So we had to rebuild Zimbabwe by giving basic human rights to 98% of the population that were not given those basic human rights by the British. So the agreement was, since they were not paying reparations, they would ensure that we can get debt cancelled, particularly of all the things that we needed to develop to get Zimbabweans back into the position that would have been had colonialism not taken place. The second set of sanctions are what we call executive order sanctions. The Americans have tried to call them targeted sanctions. But when you look at the list of targeted sanctions, you actually see a bold prohibition for any company in the world, any Americans, to clear funds from Zimbabwe, to do business with Zimbabwe, provide software, provide support, and even providing aid or logistical assistance to the Zimbabwean government. Otherwise, those companies will be penalized. They could face jail sentences according to the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So these are sanctions that are what we call collective punishment of the Zimbabwean people that are disguised as something other than that. So those are the sanctions that we've got, so congressional sanctions and presidential order sanctions. I'm sorry.
No, so you have those two types of sanctions, and then you have an anti-sanctions movement, the Zimbabwe Anti-Sanctions Movement, which you're chairperson of. What is your group doing to get the sanctions lifted?
Thank you very much for that question, because for the first, let's say, 18 years of these sanctions, our parents, as I would like to put it, have been trying to deal with this issue politically. Our government has been trying to deal with the Americans, the Europeans, Canadians, and Australians. And as you would know, that is the Berlin Conference cabal, the same nations that colonized us, the same nations that created the doctrine of discovery to create slavery in America are the same countries that also brought us these very same sanctions. Very ironic. And they are bringing these sanctions, obviously, because it's the issue of land. Why should we take land, first and foremost? And why should we defend another African country that is being invaded by rebels that are being sponsored by the West, for the West to loot the Congo better or to bifurcate or balkanize the Congo? So we had to find out what these sanctions were, because we grew up knowing about these sanctions. We began to realize what the sanctions were. They were extrajudicial punishment. They were extraterritorial imposition of US law. They were also measures that were illegal, and basically what was a crime against humanity to deny the Zimbabwean people water, food, healthcare, development, all the rights that are enshrined in the very same Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was made by the United States. So when we discovered that, we got into the fight to say, let's now depoliticize the fight against sanctions, and let's make it a fight about international law, human rights, because our human rights were violated for 18 years while our parents were watching, not realizing that this was a crime against humanity that was taking place in Zimbabwe.
We are in the midst of really a historic struggle to see these sanctions lifted. It's a very, very heavy lift, and the progress that you're making at this moment is impressive, but certainly there's a long way to go. We hope to have you back soon to continue to help us understand what the progress is and how far you still have to go. I appreciate you joining me on Black News tonight, and again, best of luck in your struggle for justice.